Welcome to the Tower Builder Planning Board meeting of February 15. It is 6:04. And with that, we opened the meeting with a call to order and a roll call. So tonight in the meeting, we have Mr. Richard Baker, and we have Mr. Peter Sargent and Mr. Sakaro, Nicholas Sakaro, and we have Mr. George Seal and Rans Rasmussen, who is our CEO, and myself, Sarah Langet. And in the audience, we have Mrs. Joy Intriago. And with that, if anybody present to do public comment? And I take nobody is here for public comment. New business is the application from Joy Intriago. The location is 12 Dern Lane, map 26, lot 48. And the purpose is a shoreline zone to enclose portion of the existing deck to expand dining. And with that, I open the floor for comments. Actually, I wonder if Mrs. Intriago has, you want to present the application or you want to just to discuss it?
I think you all have the application. The intent is to add a small amount of square footage in addition to the area where decks existed, and add on 72 square feet, which is 4 by 18. That portion of the house is with the closest corner to the lake is 110 feet. And the house sits at an angle. So everything from the closest corner back, and you can see that on the schematic that shows the property and the buildings on the property. Everything from that 110-foot point extends backwards and so further from the lake at that point. I bought property last May. Totally changed the septic systems, 2 1,000-gallon tanks, one that serves the garage and one that serves like in between. I put in Elgin drain, leach field. All of that is working well, and everything with respect to the foundation will stay the same except for the addition of a frost wall under where I would like to add this additional room, because I'd like for it to be 4 seasons. But essentially the footprint remains the same except for this additional 72 square feet.
So I got the impression from looking at the drawings that this is being built on an existing deck.
Yes, the deck had to come down first to be able to move in that direction. We got to the point in construction right before I was coming to the planning board and decided to change contractors. We had a problem with that. So we're not starting construction until June. So the deck has been taken down at this point because it was a hazard. It was noted in the inspection report to not leave it unattended. So we took down a portion of it and only left a portion to get into the house with like a small porch, but we didn't want to leave it, exposed for, someone who didn't understand the, fragile nature of it.
Hans, do you know what district, Berlin district this is?
Limited residential.
It is, but definitely, it's not, resource, salt district.
No, it's not.
I'm familiar with the law,
Pardon me?
so I'm pretty familiar with the law in the area. And,
It's along the stream, the middle of the stream, and it's not.
I'm sorry I'm late. I had a battle with my plow and then needed to clean up. So can you just, how far from the stream are you?
110 feet at the closest corner.
Yeah, so we're behind 100 feet. Right. Thank
So
you.
what turn lane and turn, what stream are we talking about?
Yeah.
Beyond, it's,
Off Red Oaks.
Off Red Oaks Drive.
right, what's his name? Who used to own it?
Pete McManus.
It's one of Pete McManus's places.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So when you, literally, let's say in your mind, when you're getting out of Great Pond.
Right.
And you hit the stream there going, you make like you start in straight and then making a 90-degree, turn. And you're in a little, snake, turn there to go all the way into the back of, the village and
Right,
so on, where the, Ryson Marina is, or used to be.
yeah,
So-
I know what it is, yeah.
So you, yeah.
As you went on,
Yeah.
as you go in,
at the lake.
yeah,
I was looking at that, I said I should have bought that. That's a nice lot.
But you're 110 feet at the closest point.
At the correct.
Hans, I have a question for you before you leave the room. Should the application be amended to include the demolition of the existing deck? I mean, that's nothing the board or you have approved in the past,
It
right?
would have been just maintenance. You
The
know,
demolition of the deck would have been maintenance?
Beyond 100 feet. I would
you're
think.
talking about the portion where she's gonna put frost wall?
Yeah,
Frost wall's only going under just a little bit, so, I mean, if you want to,
it's just a matter of accuracy, that's all. I didn't know what your thoughts were on that. Here, it's not important.
no,
A different question for you, I mean, I think this is just fine, I don't think it's a big deal, but, the photos that we're provided, are they what is actually currently there, or is that an old photo? Because it doesn't seem to jive with the drawings.
It is, but we had already started into the construction at that point, so there are some, walls on right above the area. If you look at if you look at the place to the, I guess you call it the east, that part of the house has two walls that are down.
Right.
And it has a tarp over it now, waiting on coming back to, and so there was no intent to demolish anything. The only, and even with the deck, we didn't intend to demolish, we were rebuilding it, and we were in the midst of doing that when we decided because of the contractor that we needed to make a change.
So
So
in
we're
terms of what you're actually proposing, to rebuild and include an additional 72 square feet with that frost wall, that's what's shown in yellow on 3 of your site plans.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, okay. I just couldn't reconcile those with the pictures.
I know it looks different because it has the additional roof line.
Yeah, the roof line was
That,
different.
that's really the only, that's why it does have more of a T shape instead of an L.
Yeah, all right, great, thank you.
the posts that were on the deck now, those are just what, like sonotube, like small
Yes.
footings?
Yeah,
And are you gonna reuse those? Or are you gonna dig those up and then that's where the frost walls go on? It's going beyond that.
but this is when I wish Sean was here, but, Sean Craig is my contractor. I don't know that for sure. I would prefer to have a frost wall, but, depending on, what's advisable. I don't want to have a basement there. There's not gonna be any kind of basement, it would only be the frost wall.
That is a pertinent question though, because, it goes to whether or not a DEP certified contractor is gonna be required to be on site or not. I don't know if your contractor has that certification.
It's gonna be required anyway, that she's putting a frost wall and just that little bit.
Right,
So that's gonna be required anyway.
yeah, no, but it's not provided, so.
Who did Sean Craig, it's not the first time he's been.
I think he-
Who's he used for it?
starts with a B.
Right.
Oh,
He has it certified, but we're gonna have to put a
Condition.
condition on there, but
okay.
that's pretty minor.
The only other comment I have, and it really is a minor thing, because of the size of the lot, but it's just that question 8 wasn't answered correctly. It isn't 1,800 square feet of unvegetated surface. It's more than that, because that's only includes the buildings. But 20% of the lot area, which is allowed to be unvegetated, is something like 7,250 square feet. So there's plenty of extra. So that really shouldn't be an issue. Not allowed to have more than 20% of your lot covered in the shoreline zone covered by unvegetated surfaces.
Yes, and I've had times out to look at some of that.
And there is no,
This doesn't, it normally, if it was a smaller lot and you were closer, we'd probably have you recalculate how much square footage was in walkways, patios, all that other kind of unvegetated surface stuff, driveways.
well, there really is no,
Hmm,
there is none. It's a grass
That's
parking
not-
area.
according to the site drawings, got gravel driveway and turnaround area and a garage.
So
But it's really not
Well, it needs to be road.
that important in this particular case. On a smaller lot, it would have been.
Yeah, I don't have any paved areas.
Yeah, gravel's considered unvegetated.
I like vegetation. And when I had another house, I always strive to do the look smart, things, so I can rest assured I'll follow that to the T.
Any other comments? Mr. Baker,
So,
Sergeant,
I'm good.
Craig,
I'm good.
very good. Mr. Carroll?
All set, good.
It's very good to proceed, we deem the application completed.
Mhm.
Right, so we're gonna proceed with the findings of facts and conclusion of law. So, for the record, I happen to know socially Mrs. Santiago. We are very engaged in our summer yacht club, group as a sailing team that we have in the lake. I just started doing that a year or two ago, and we had to get it worked and what we call the host boat. So the races start and we're there taking clock for the races. So I'm gonna recruit myself from the boating today, all right? So, that said, we're gonna, proceed with the findings of fact and conclusion of law. And this is for the application of the, and, all right, Joy, this is process, they're gonna be the longest of the meeting. It's tedious because for the public record, I have to read everything. So you say, oh my God, why she's repeating all this? It's just for the public record. So again, the applicant name is Joy M. Intriago, and the applicant address is 12 Dern Lane, map 26, lot 48. And we're gonna start with the findings of fact. The applicants on the date applied for the shoreline permit for 18 by 12 addition to the existing house. The application was presented to the planning board on February 15, 2024. Today, the findings of fact and conclusions of law were developed in conjunction with consideration of the permit application. Conclusions of law. Based upon the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to it, and the above findings of fact, the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is permitted. And the use is an enclosed portion of an existing deck to expand dining.
Joy, this is, well, pretty much between us. So if you wanna sit down, there's not gonna be any questions.
This is a legal obligation that we have under the ordinance.
Okay.
And it's pretty lengthy, well, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, it's lengthy enough.
You start talking, I was, where he's going with all this? Okay, so it's permitted under section 14, table 1, and the ordinance, and further makes the following conclusions based on the applicable provisions in section 16D of the ordinance. So it will maintain safe and healthy conditions. The board found the standard was met based on, public records, and, submission, what's the other one we said?
Application submissions.
Application submissions. Thank you. And for the record, we're gonna call that PRAS for now. So the board found the standard was met based on public records and application submissions. So, Mr. Surgeon,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes,
Mr. Alexander.
Yes,
And so it's 4 yeses and,
Rich can vote.
And do you recuse yourself?
I'll recuse myself. You wanna
yeah,
vote
so
then?
Rich gets the vote.
Okay,
Yeah, yes.
and Mr. Baker said yes, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recluse. Will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. The board found the standard was met based on PRAS. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Surgeon,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
With the condition regarding the contractor, yes.
with condition of DEP certified contractor. Mr. Alexander,
Yes,
so it's 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recluse. Will provide for disposal of all wastewater. The board found the standard was met based on PRAS. Mr. Baker?
Yeah.
Mr. Surgeon?
Yes.
Mr. DeCaro?
Yes.
Mr. Seal?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
And, Ms. Langetta recused from voting, so it's 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 recused. Will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fishing, aquatic wildlife, bird or other wildlife habitat. The board found the standard was met based on PRAS. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Surgeon,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara.
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander. So 5 yeses, 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 recused. I recuse. Will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. The board found this standard was met based on PRAS. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Surgeon,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander. So it's 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recused. Will protect archaeological and historical resources as designed in the comprehensive plan. The board found the standard was met based on PRAS. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Sargent,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara.
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander. And Mr. Rangel, I recuse, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recused. Will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. The board found the standard was met based on PRAS. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Sargent,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander. And Mr. Rangel recused, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recused. Okay, the next, item, we're gonna determine the areas that are applicable, and then we're gonna vote all together at the end. So it is in conformance with provision of section 15 land uses standards. Land uses standards, minimum lot size standards, that applies, that's a yes. Principal and accessory structures.
Yes.
Yes. Campgrounds, NA. Individual private campsites, NA. Commercial and industrial uses, NA. Parking areas, NA. Roads and driveways,
NA.
NA. Signs, NA. Stormwater runoff,
Yes.
applies. Septic waste disposal system. Yes.
Yes. Is that already in or is that gonna be done?
It's done.
Yeah, you just have we have the documentation for the surface wastewater disposal system here. It's done, yeah. Essential services, NA.
No.
Mineral exploration and extraction. You have all there? No, NA. Agriculture, NA. Timber harvesting and land management roads, NA. Clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting, NA. Hazard trees, storm damaged trees, and dead tree removal, NA. Exceptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements,
NA.
NA. Revegetation requirements, NA. Erosion and sedimentation control, that applies. Shoreline stabilization. Soils. Yeah,
What was that one?
soils,
Yes, that applies because of the septic.
yeah. Water quality,
Yes.
Yes.
historical and archaeological sites, NA. Resource protection, NA. So, the land use standards that apply are minimal lot size, principal and accessory structures, stormwater runoff, septic waste disposal systems, erosion sedimentation control, soils and water quality. The board found these standards were met based on the evidence in the record and the record. So Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Sergeant,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander. So 5 in favor, none opposed, and 1 recuse. All right. All right, we are here to the very end now. So conditions of approval needed to meet required Belgrade shoreline zone ordinance findings in section 16D. And we do this every single applicant, Mrs. Santiago. The number one condition that we have is it manage stormwater runoff from new or expanded structures in accordance with section 15.1 of the Belgrade Shore Zone Ordinance and the main DEP protection best management practices as outlined in the conservation practice for homeowners publication. Such measures are to be put in place prior to building use. Note that this is a standing condition that applies to all permits unless they meet unnecessary by the planning board based on rationale. Now, the other condition that we have
Contract.
is the DEP certified.
Yeah, submit
So,
something like along the lines of submit the name and certification number.
for DEP,
Of the DEP certified contractor. To the CEO. Prior to the start of construction.
What is Sean's schedule? Can you tell you when we can start?
He's not committing to anything for June, but since the weather's been good.
I'm not busy.
So the one condition we just put on there was a certified contractor's number. That's right up here in the corner of your application. Sean knows all about that. And he's very familiar with it. He has a certified contractor.
He can find who it is,
So he just has to give that to, before you start construction.
and I can look up the number, I got a link on my desktop.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the
So-
only thing you'll have to do.
Yeah,
so.
that and the stormwater.
Yeah.
Yep.
Stormwater.
Okay.
So then we're gonna proceed to close the, finding of facts. So we're gonna vote, now we're gonna vote for the whole application. Based on the above findings of fact and conclusions of law on February 15, 2024 of the Town of Belgrade Planning Board, the short permit application of, Joy in Triago. With the above conditions at the meeting of 2/15/2024, develop with the, written findings of fact and conclusion of law on remand of the Belgrade Board of Appeals and adopted on these findings on 2/15/2024. So the board will approved. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Surgeon,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Steele,
Yes.
and Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
So the board is at 5 in favor, none opposed, and me, recusing. So, 2024. Signature here, and congratulations, you got a permit.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'll email you those copies that all, you know.
Thank you very much. My love, really appreciate it. And take care of the lake. Yeah, you excuse.
Yeah,
I mean, I can.
You're all done.
Very done.
all done.
Free to leave.
You wanna say the rest of the meeting?
No,
I'm sure there's something better on TV.
I know, I don't think it's a thing to talk about, but I wouldn't.
Sign.
Right here.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Hans, I got a procedural question for you. It seems like maybe our procedures for what we sign and what we don't sign has changed over time, and we used to also sign the actual permit, but don't anymore.
I've never seen an actual permit. I thought this turns into the permit. when it-
Okay, well, so this suffices if we sign that. How is when you send the permit to the applicant, do you also send the findings of fact? So that's how the conditions of approval are conveyed? I thought that might be the case, but I wasn't sure. Thanks.
Yeah, and it's all saved as one document. And the U drive, the common drive, under planning board. So I will scan all this together tomorrow. With any other documents. And save as one under their map and lot number, so
Okay,
there's a redundancy built into it.
okay, very good, thanks.
Sarah, before we move on, can I just say something?
Sure.
The reason I thought Durham Lane was the, off of, down at the steep slopes there on, the cove down here,
Foster Point.
for Foster Point Road, yeah. And we've had a couple of applications there before, and it's real steep down to the water there. And some of that is in a, resource protection slope district.
Oh, I
And I'm
see.
not sure that we haven't not done fully what we should do on some of those applications. On page 60 of the ordinance, it's got the resource protection slope district. And if you're doing an expansion on an existing structure in that district, it calls for a sedimentation control plan done by a professional engineer. Just want to bring it out so that when we're looking at steep slopes areas that are already developed, we should make sure that it's not that district, and if so, there's some extra standards here. But yeah,
The other one that has come up in the past, was, along Belgrade Stream.
by hand number.
Yeah, on the, opposite shore from him in Lumber.
Anyway, that was it.
I see. All right, so, we had very good meetings with, KB Cog. And the next item in the agenda is to look over the, KB Cog LD 2003. And, so you guys have here basically the full amended, two, ordinances that we have to more in order to comply with the state law.
So Granya's not attending tonight?
No,
She said she was done. Right?
now, because we wrap it up, all that she can do for us, she's already done. So this is basically it.
Well, yeah, and I agree, but there was one issue remaining that Craig had brought up at the end, that we need to discuss, and that has to do with the cost of the,
So, with the minimum.
lab analyses.
Okay,
Let me take this back. She's not, wording into the agenda. So originally we scheduled 3 meetings, including tonight. But it was gonna be if this was not completed.
Yeah,
And my impression was that last time we were here,
Not at all.
that was not completed.
no,
Oh,
no, and we didn't take a vote either.
oh, well, I mean, her job is in relation to,
Her job's probably done.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I question whether it is because, there are typos and some errors in here.
Oh. I didn't have,
We can do formatting changes, you know, fix the typos and periods. I know there's some commas or periods should be, but that was part of the ordinance before she got it.
Yeah, I mean, typically, when KB cog's been working for us in the past, they see it right through until it goes to the, select board. And the select board, sends it to the attorney, not, this is kind of premature.
oh, well, I guess it's my bad, because when we closed last meeting, I walked out with the concept that she was done. So,
I sensed that she was done coming to the meetings. But I would think that if we have things we need changed, I would think that they would still do that.
They'll change in the sense of a correction, and then whatever comes out of the discussion we have with Craig's issue.
I think, she was feeling like she was done with the multi-dwelling ordinance. And my issues with the, minimum lot size. So I think she feels like she completed the LD 2003.
So I think we should take up Craig's
Yeah.
remaining issue first, so that then we can move on to dealing with typos and corrections.
okay,
So, water filtration systems, so I'm just gonna kind of throw some education out there first, and then I'm gonna go with that. This would be, it's on the minimum lot size,
yeah,
and it's on H. C. I don't have page numbers.
oh, I see. So,
Highlighted in yellow, right?
The one I have, yes, it's not the one she passed out there, I don't know if it is or not.
Okay, so it's in, HC you said?
Yeah,
Is it Henry? Mine doesn't even have, mine goes by H, like 1 through 4.
so it's under permit application under H. And it says it's on, number 4 to demonstrate drinking water supply well.
That would be page 15. So what you would see tonight.
Thanks, man.
all right, thank you.
Number 4.
Yeah. School way.
Everybody there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk water filtration systems. The systems, for this type of stuff, they're expensive. The one I just put in, which was mostly just, iron, and it had a few other minor things in there. I wish I had the water test, but I already turned it over to the homeowner.
now
So, but anyways, it was like $21,000 and some change.
21,000
Yeah,
for iron?
the iron and whatever else is in there to get the system in there. So. Talking to other plumbers and stuff, water systems, if you got a reliable water system for this stuff. It's gonna be anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000. Now,
that's just the testing.
no,
No,
that's the system itself.
The test is $127.
Yeah,
So then, and I know you sent me that email,
Yeah.
that's what I wasn't talking about. I know what a test costs, then there's maintenance. And you have the maintenance that's gotta be done it goes by gallons. So every certain amount of time, you need to do the maintenance, and I talked to this plumber, which isn't mine, yesterday. And he was just going to do the maintenance on a house that he installed 2 or 3 years ago. And he said he had $900 in material plus labor, so it's gonna be around $1,500 just for the maintenance on that system
Each year?
each year. And he said, when it comes to uranium, he says, you don't want just an everyday. When it comes to treating uranium, which Belgrade has a lot of, especially down through the village district, so he told me someone's gonna get in trouble sometime or another for dumping the aggregate, because the aggregate is supposed to be taken care of properly. So with all that being said, it's expensive. And it's gotta be maintained. Okay, so with this minimum lot thing, the affordable housing, I'm for it. Most of it's affordable housing. That's all subsidized. I know of legislators getting done, not running again, and they're gonna start construction that have worked on this. It's all government funded. So affordable housing, this can go in there. The ADU, the way I feel is, I'm kind of split, I'm torn on it. So I kind of feel if we could word it where the ADU is being attached to an existing home that's and the septic is being expanded and no new septic, then I don't know if this is necessary. If they're adding a second home with a new septic, then I'm kind of fine with this being in there. And on top of that, I think for the affordable housing, if it's rental units, then we should almost treat that as a public water supply and have them submit tests every so often, and maybe not to the point as a restaurant, which has to do it every year, but every 3 years, just to make sure they're maintaining their systems for rental units. I'm just throwing that out there, it's not a necessity. But if the big thing I see is moving the parents in, and you've been living in the house, and you're just building an apartment on the side of it. And they're elderly, their death in was, and you've been living with it all your life. So I don't see where we should make them put a $20,000 unit in and maintain it. So that's my only advice. The rest of it I'll agree to, and we can add for affordable housing, if it's rental units, we can add verbiage and resubmit. And that's,
Okay.
So I can shed some light on your second part, because that's the easiest, and then we can get to the meat of what you raised, which are, good questions. If a multi dwelling, including an affordable housing project, has 25 or more residents, it's automatically by state law considered a public drinking water supply. The well will have to be approved, the location of the well and the water quality of the well will have to be approved by the Maine Drinking Water Program at DHHS. And they have, their own, they have a statewide, requirement for, what that drinking water, what's allowed in that drinking water, and if you find uranium or whatever it is, what the treatment requirements are gonna be. So we don't really need to specify that in this ordinance,
Well, that's 25 units, so that's a big, that's big.
not units, people.
Hmm. But people,
So that would be less than 25 units. I don't know what it would be. I mean, if it was same, it depends on the number of residents, it might be 8.
So 5 bedrooms.
Yeah, or couples, or whatever. So I don't, all I'm saying is that I don't think we need to worry about that part.
So,
So that's my personal feeling, that, because I thought about that in the context of the multi-dwelling ordinance, which probably any sizable affordable housing project would fall under, because it will be probably more than 3 or more units, so I think we just let state law and state regulations take care of that.
okay. So what's the state regulations as far as the rest of this then? So do we even have to bother with?
Well, yeah, no, there's no state regulations on private drinking water supplies. It's,
So then.
user
now
beware.
Back to where I was in the beginning. then.
Well,
Key on the hit on the rentals.
Yeah.
When it hits a rental category, I
Yeah.
think we need to have different sets of rules that require proof of annual maintenance. Because the
Yeah, it
landlord,
doesn't even have to be annual, it could be biannual or whatever.
well, I mean, if they put in a system,
Mhm.
we should have proof that it's been maintained, and that the landlords isn't just letting it go to crap on whoever's renting it. They might be there 7 or 8 years, they could be drinking swill
Mhm.
at the end of it.
so, let's go back even one more step to the beginning, and that is the state law and the regulations that implement the state law that we have to follow in the crafting of these ordinances. And those are the regulations that the Department of Economic and Community Development, it really is too bad that Grania isn't here, but so, the same language is found in the affordable housing section of that regulation, in the, part that deals with duplexes, and the third part that deals with, accessory dwelling units, and I'll just read it. If an accessory dwelling unit is connected to a well, proof of access to potable water, including the standards outlined in, and refers to it, another regulation, any test of an existing well or proposed well must indicate that the water supply is potable and acceptable for domestic use. So, we're obligated, in these ordinances to ensure that, even if it's an existing well, according to this, that they're gonna be using, that it's indeed potable. You may recall, I had suggested the language that we have at the moment, because I was concerned that the way this regulation defined potable, relied on US EPA drinking water standards that are pretty expensive to do the sampling for. And that's why I came up with, what basically is the same criteria that you would use for any new well, where a bank loans are required, that the bank would require of you, coliform, E. coli, bacteria, nitrates, nitrites, fluoride, chloride, copper, iron, pH, manganese, uranium, arsenic, and magnesium. And actually, I'd be happy to eliminate iron and pH, because those are well, pH has to do with lead levels. Iron is more of just a nuisance. There's no health standard for iron. You know, we could eliminate that. But I'm not sure, Craig, we have the flexibility to do what you're suggesting for accessory dwelling units. Based on that, on what the state's telling us we have to do. And what standard, you know, this potability standard, I think we have some flexibility in how we define potability.
Well, let's say potability is the EPA standard.
Yeah, right, and Grania already, said that we have sufficient flexibility to define it slightly differently. But to do away with it entirely is a whole different matter.
Seems though, what the state would be suggesting would be a lot easier than, what we got here.
And these are
And,
the state.
What do you mean?
Seems though, because the state's gonna be a lesser of a hindrance, because they want this to go. So the state's gonna have less, I mean, less of criteria than what you're producing here. Because, you know, they tested everything down through the village and they didn't suggest anything.
Well, the EPA has uranium standards. They also have, standards for other isotopes. And, the way I crafted it, people wouldn't even have to test for those other isotopes, including, radon.
But if the rules say it needs to be potable and they define potable as meeting the EPA standards, why are we trying to deviate from the EPA standards?
Because I think we can, be as protective of public health at lesser cost.
But we're not following the rules.
It's not gonna be,
Well, you know, if you want to go back to the original, definition in the state rule, that's fine.
Well, I mean, the point of doing.
You're gonna have a hard time implementing it, though.
The point of doing this is to follow the state rules. This is a state requirement, right?
Yeah, no, that's right.
So if we deviate from this, then we're not following the state requirement.
Yeah,
Their definition of potable is the definition.
I mean, that's why I asked Grania the same question 3 meetings ago or whenever it was. And she was of the opinion that we had enough flexibility to slightly, vary from it as long as we were no less stringent, and we're not being any less stringent. It's, it's just that we're narrowing the universe of things people have to test for from 220 to a dozen. I think what you're suggesting is not what you really want to have happen, Hans, because it would be really unfair to these landowners.
I just want to make sure that our ordinance is following the rules set before us.
Well, I mean, I can only go by what Grania told us. And she was of the opinion, I mean, that, it was okay.
I don't know what the EPA test is or the EPA definition of potability. I trust what's written here. Because that's what she put on the paper.
Well, I mean, obviously I've, you know, worked with both of these sets of, health standards, in my career. There's 220 in EPA. There's a large number of state, maximum exposure guidelines, which is the state version of, the advantage of using the state number. First off, what we're concerned about and what this, state regulation is concerned about is contamination, primarily contamination from 2 sources of contamination. One is PFAS and the second is, wastewater. The 220 compounds, many of those are things that are more related to petroleum contamination, contamination by hazardous materials and hazardous wastes, uranium isotopes, and compounds of that nature. And I don't think that's what we need to focus on. I think we need to be more strategic than that and focus on those contaminants that are likely to show up in somebody's well that's related to wastewater, from denser development. And that's
What
why
do you feel is related to wastewater?
the ones that are listed in the paragraph you cited,
All
yes.
of them? Uranium,
Well, uranium, and that's, uranium and arsenic are natural.
copper, those are all natural. The only two that really have anything to do with the wastewater, and I asked both these plumbers this, is coliform and E. coli. And they say, yeah, it can have something to do with wastewater, but it could be a bacteria as well. So it could be a mouse that climbed into the well, could be, anything that could happen. So cause I was originally gonna go with, well, let's do coliform and E. coli, because that would indicate a bad septic system, and I was corrected in both cases, both plumbers said, well, that necessarily isn't the case. But in that, saying that, should be able to, sanitize your well and take care of that. Whereas if it was a septic system, it would reoccur again.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have any problem with changing the wording if you think that's needed to allow for, doing a well shocking with chlorine. If you think,
But
I mean, it would be a pretty shoddy drilled well if a mouse got into it, but.
no, there's, they're
Direct
sealed a
dug
little,
well, yeah.
it's sealed a little better now, but it could be a dug well, could be, some of the older wells, they don't have the sealed covers and where the wires.
Well,
go
you're
down.
right, because if it's an existing well, it could be an older well,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah, no, you're right about that.
Uh,
And it could be a dug well, I suppose, yeah.
And it's a dug
I mean, I had
well.
a friend that had a skunk fall into their dug well.
So there's a lot of stuff that could happen here. And we're throwing a major cost onto it. Where everybody else in the town is drinking the water the way it is, or deciding to buy bottled water, which,
Or treating it.
I
I mean, I have treatment on my well.
yeah, bottled water, they're coming out every day, oh, there's PFAS in the plastics, PFAS in the plastics, I just listened to that today. And or anything plastic, so they're all over the place with this.
I have a question. How would this pertain to shoreline zoning?
Nothing, shoreline zones not pertaining to any of this stuff.
Okay, because I thought it said lots wholly or partially within shoreline zoning.
This ADU, this is the minimum lot.
Yeah, but on page 2, it says lots wholly or partially within shoreline zoning. Furthermore, concurrent.
So if it's gonna consider shoreline zoning, well, people are drawing out of the lake.
Right, that's right, that was my next thing, people drawing, a lot of rentals, they drawn out of the lake.
Yeah,
This be applied, but it does say which would land use within the shoreline zone shall be permitted only in accordance with the land use standards of the shoreline zoning ordinance. So this wouldn't apply to shoreline then, if it's partially located in the shoreline. Is that, am I reading that right?
this, being able to develop on smaller lots does not apply to shoreline zoning. And so what this ordinance does is implement that state law that allows development on smaller lots than the town of Belgrade currently allows.
Yeah, but you have some that are grandfathered. That are smaller than what we allow.
Right, but it would allow them, for example, to put an ADU on one if they wanted to. As long as it's not, doesn't make the lot more non-conforming the way this is, Grania's crafted this. So, we're gonna, but again, this doesn't affect what the lot size requirements are in the shoreline zone, because the state law was crafted to exempt shoreline zoning.
I've got a question. the definition of potable in here is that something we wrote, or is that something that's part of the definition of potable? Is that the potable definition under the rule?
This is the potable definition under the rule, which is, I think we just need to make a reference to that and take all this complicated verbiage out of here.
So that's on page 24 for those of you that have page numbers. That, that we modified.
Okay. What I was wondering is the number 4 that we're looking at, is that in conflict at all with the definition of potable?
No, the two go hand in hand, because you notice, and they have to. Because if we did what Craig suggested or Hans suggested, going back and relying on US EPA drinking water standards, we'd have to change both of those, the definition. So you'll notice in the definition of potable, it refers to safe for drinking as defined by the Maine Department of Health and Human Services maximum exposure guidelines. What we would have to change that back to is to US Environmental Protection Agency, whatever they call their
Which is
drinking
more
water standards.
stringent or more detailed.
Yeah,
in terms of testing.
I probably didn't explain this very well earlier, but I mean, these come from comments I submitted and suggestions I made that I thought others agreed with, but apparently not. And the objective was to provide developers and landowners with more guidance than the state definition provides, because that is so ambiguous, I wouldn't know how to comply with it. And I have a lot of experience in this area. So narrow the field of things that people have to test for so that you reduce the laboratory costs, and have it be, and what you test for is truly related to or similar to what a new well anywhere in the state of Maine, a new private well or a new private well would be tested for if there was a bank involved. And those items that I mentioned are the same things that you get for $127 at the state public health lab, and a number of commercial labs in the state as well. And those are, as I said before, coliform and E. coli bacteria, nitrates, nitrites, fluoride, chlorine, copper, iron, pH, manganese, uranium, arsenic, and magnesium. And all of those are based on health standards in terms of, humans being exposed over a period of a year or so, and what the health impacts might be. In some cases like uranium and arsenic, they're carcinogens. Iron pH is more related to if you have older piping, depending on the pH, you can leach the lead out of it. Iron really, if you guys wanted to eliminate that, that really is more of a nuisance thing than a health standard. There's no health basis to the iron, and copper is a health issue. So, if you want to go back to the EPA standards, I mean, I'm amenable just to get the ball moving forward here. But boy, it'll be difficult for people to comply with it.
So I got a
I've
question.
never had a bank ask me for a water test. I'm trying to think of all the houses I've built. I do them automatically for the testing.
I got a quick
I've
question.
never had a bank ask me for a water test.
I had to
I've never had a
provide
bank-
one when for a mortgage, I had to provide
I've
one,
never had a bank
and I
tell
had to
me-
provide one when I refinanced.
I've never had a bank tell me I had to put a water system in.
So I got a quick question here. So I need to understand the separation or the relationship between we're talking here about testing.
No, we're talking about treatment. So it's testing but then you have to treat it. So the treatment's 20 grand.
It's very expensive, treatment.
Yeah,
And then it's a lot of
Also,
maintenance.
the treatment comes only if the
So who's
testing.
gonna pay attention to the maintenance on an ADU?
Hold on a second, but, here. We're talking about, testing first, and the treatment comes only if the testing is positive.
Which is gonna be in Belgrade. On this list of stuff here, I can almost guarantee you in Belgrade, you're not gonna pass all of these. Guaranteed,
how can you say that, Craig? My
because
goodness.
iron's everywhere. There's uranium through all of this. If anybody, have you tested your well lately?
Just about a month ago,
How'd it do?
failed on E. coli, that's why I had it tested.
Yeah,
But the other stuff was okay.
It's okay, right
Yeah.
up there at the top.
Mine's fine for uranium. The only thing, that I had a problem with is, radon, which isn't even on the list.
Yeah, I don't know, I've tested a lot of wells.
Yeah.
I mean, and the uranium is, so far has only been found close to the village, but it's not found elsewhere in Belgrade that I'm aware of.
If you do pass.
It is found in places like Reed Field and Manchester and over in that direction, Leeds.
If you do fail the test, doesn't it make sense to treat it instead of having somebody
And
suggest?
that's where I was going on with all this, because my mind is,
Well, to somebody that can afford it, yes.
so if you live in a place that with water that is no good and drink it because you cannot afford it.
You have other
A
choices.
lot of this stuff.
Oh, well,
You have other choices, is what I'm saying, so why force them into, why legislate someone, you wanna legislate a vaccine?
I will go.
Are you doing the same thing?
One second now,
A second.
Greg. So I thought here, one second, I thought here, maybe I'm reading this wrong. We were only talking about testing. And then if it is, let's say the testing is positive, the landowner can choose what to do, whether doing a treatment or just doing water. That's
No,
their
that's
thing.
not-
They have to
that's
make
not
it
what
potable.
this is saying.
Is that what this says?
They have to make it potable before the permit.
Right, because we don't have an occupancy permit requirement, which is what the state had envisioned. That they had envisioned that it would be done before the occupancy permit was issued, and we don't have such a permit in Belgrade.
Well, prior to occupation, water test results must be submitted to the CEO demonstrating the water supply is potable. That's the last sentence in that section,
So,
and I think that could be the first sentence, and you just reference the definition of potable by the rule put before us, because you're going less stringent than what the rule in the state mandate is. And we're
Well,
not supposed to go less stringent.
If the only way we're gonna get this, make any progress here is to go back to the state rule, fine, I'll agree to that.
I'm just
But-
questioning that we're allowed to make it more stringent. Right?
yeah,
Or no less stringent.
No less stringent, but this definition of potable was less stringent than
It is not.
it is not.
I don't think it is. Bronya didn't seem to think it was. I mean, I will defer to the attorney and her on, whether or not, this is allowable. I actually emailed her, thinking she was gonna be here, saying that I thought that this question would come up again, and unfortunately, I never got a response, and I didn't realize she wasn't gonna be here. But
this is my bad, because I thought we got this all wrapped up.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
If we go with the definition potable, right? If we go with that, now, and if you wanna change it, you can change it at a later date. Well, who's gonna change it? The local community or at the state level? In the state level, this definition, according to the Maine Department of Health and Human Services or DEP, whatever you might make it, you can change it at the state level later on. Whatever the state does, we could, keep it, incorporate with what the state says. So if it gets more stringent or less stringent at the state level, we follow suit. So we can eliminate a lot of this, what we're talking about, and just kind of go with the state, way it's set up now with either way, the state. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
no,
know, the
I,
legislature and change it there,
Right.
rather here at the local level, and we're different from other towns, et cetera. So that's.
yeah, I was just trying to offer a way that this would be easier to implement, less costly to the landowner, and equally as protective of public health. And if we don't want to go that direction, that's fine. We can go just with, we can go with straightforward with what the state definition is. I don't know Hanzo. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes and trying to implement this or figure out whether somebody's, because it just doesn't provide landlords with much guidance.
To me, when somebody says, what do I have to do here, this looks like a disaster.
I'm sorry?
When someone comes to me and say, what do I have to do to meet these standards?
Yeah,
The way this reads, to me, is a disaster. I wouldn't know what to tell them to do. Go get a test. What test? It's not spelled out.
actually, that's the problem you're gonna have when somebody comes in and says, how do I do it? What test do I need to meet US EPA drinking water standards? You know what? There's none. There is none because it's so broad. The compounds that are listed here are the same compounds that when you go to Northeast Labs, to the Public Health Lab, Health and Environmental Testing Laboratory, you go to the lab down in Auburn, the ones down in Scarborough, you ask for a new drinking water supply test. These are the parameters they're gonna test for $127. That's what this is tied to. It couldn't be easier to implement versus the way the state defined it.
But, okay,
It's a, go ahead.
yeah, so again, I come around to, it needs to be changed. But, according to you, George, you say no more than
Yeah,
we do at the
and
state.
you're saying, well, let the state be the one.
Put the burden on the state, let the legislators get involved, let them change it. The public outcry will force that to happen. That's one way to do it. And I'm saying that's for us, at the local level, we're trying to get this through. It's gonna be easiest for us.
Yeah, no, your point's well taken.
Are you
I
saying
just don't have that much confidence in the state, frankly.
Are you saying X the whole thing out, the whole paragraph out?
No. Well, he's saying change it back to what the state regulation said
So
originally.
we have people, the thing that I'm hearing here, is that we have, we're a very special board. We have people on this board that understand the granular part of how this thing is gonna play out. The state doesn't even know yet, but George and Mr. Sear and Mr. Baker know how this ball is playing. So
I'm not much
I
of a
think
drinking.
Mr. Seal is trying to make this easier for anybody that will try to implement this here locally, rather than having to go and chase this rabbit
But
hole.
this whole
The
paragraph,
state.
we added this.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
you did.
So Mr. Seal did this research for that.
Right.
So then the part of the testing is fine. And what I hear from the practical portion of things, and because Craig is involved with construction, is that, oh my God, if that is positive, my client is gonna have to spend 20 grand in that, we're gonna be
Yeah, I agree.
all
I agree.
accountable to that.
I think,
I'm not worried about my clients, because the people I work for want to do it, and they can afford to do it. I'm
And the
not
regular
worried,
Joe that lives in.
I'm worried about the rest of the
Yes,
town,
yeah,
is who I'm
yeah.
worried about. Not my clients, because
Okay.
all of my clients,
Oh, thanks,
I built
David,
million dollar homes,
David Baldry, yeah, yeah, David
you
Baldry.
know, so.
Does the state definition of potability require the system to go in? If it's potable and it's not potable, I mean, if it's supposed to be potable and it's not, is there a requirement that
They had to
they
fix
fix
it.
it before somebody moves in?
No, it's silent on that. It just says it has to be potable.
Okay.
It doesn't,
So
it doesn't
say how to
provide,
do
it
how to go about
doesn't tell people how to achieve it.
Okay, so then,
Okay,
So,
okay, so let me ask this, you may not know the answer. Somebody has bad water And what doesn't even, just these criteria we've got there. Is it appropriate? Could somebody say, if we didn't have it in, I'm not gonna fix it, but I'm gonna provide Bear Spring water to these people, or whatever, do we, if they're not, they don't drink the water in the well, but provide water, is that?
Yeah, I think some of the lake rentals that draw out the lake, they tell you straight up, you're gonna drink bottled water, and, you know.
So should we then, add it to the, caveat that they have to be, potable drinking water? We can add here, that the person that lives there can choose how to go about it, I guess. Oh,
Like,
We could add language that, since these are private wells versus public wells, we could add language that said that, you know, like provide an alternate source, like, you know, bottled water. For a public, you know, like a multi-dwelling unit that qualified as a public drinking water, the state would never go along with that.
the other thing I was gonna say earlier is that I don't, if the state listing of the things that they do with the $127 test is adequate to say it's, put it this way, if they're not mandating or not testing for other things, it seems like we shouldn't be requiring anybody to test for more than that. You know, it's like,
And then
I
it's,
build a house and that's what I test for, then why should we tell somebody to test for more than that? To have somebody jump into their system by, you know, attaching to the well. What I'm saying, I guess, really is, if EPA standards are much more expensive than testing more things, why would we make somebody test those things for those things when in fact the state test, which is deemed okay, is only 10 or 12 parameters?
So what's the state test? Because this, the state test, is it?
The items that are listed in,
Yes.
that you cited in that section are the items that you find in a, test at the the commercial labs and the state health environmental, testing lab for a new private drinking water supply well. Minus radon.
I think the one thing I struggle with is the accessory dwelling unit. Could be, you know, potentially family members, you know what I mean? And so that's like a private home, you know, with, you know, family members or, you know. I think there's a huge difference between a dwelling unit and an affordable housing project, you know?
I agree,
So
and
that's
if,
where I
and if it
struggle.
wasn't for the state regulation, I wouldn't even suggest it for that application, it's just. You know, those are the
no,
rules that have been set up.
That's where I struggle with. I don't think, you know, they should be forced to implement a system like that if it's just an accessory dwelling unit for their family members or something. If it's an affordable housing project,
Yeah.
then yeah, I get it, because now you're talking keeping the public safe but I don't see how an accessory dwelling unit having, you know, portable water is keeping the public safe, you know?
I mean, to be honest with you, and I mentioned this before, you know, what I struggle with, but, you know, again, it's in the state regulations, so, is why test for PFAS? Because of, you know, there's, my understanding, this is an area I don't have expertise in, but, you know, there's, when homeowners do it, they, a lot of times cross-contaminate the water sample because of the clothing they're wearing or some other they've been or whatever they're doing, and it has to be, you can't take it from the faucet, you have to take it before it goes to the, probably at, or before the pressure tank. How many landowners do you know are gonna actually do that,
PFAS testing requirements in the state definition.
Yeah,
Okay. And that's why you put near facilities to try to avoid having testing all over the place.
right.
So, let me take the flag here, so I can get to a touchdown. So, are we in agreement with testing the water? The testing portion of this big paragraph, is everybody good with it?
I don't quite understand your question again.
Okay, so,
Agreement with what, what we.
With what they're tested for specifically.
so,
Rather than going with the portable.
no, we're not gonna get there yet. I'm going half field first. Half field is, are we okay with doing the testing?
The wording right here?
Yeah,
No, I'm not.
why?
I don't think it's necessary. Just go with the portable definition, go with what the state is, and if you want to change it later on, change it. The state's gonna change. I don't want to get into a lot of extra regulation here at the town level. What are the other towns doing when they pass this law? They didn't do all of this.
Well, I agree. A lot of towns, well, let me go back a step. My understanding, both from Grania and when we had an email exchange last summer with the staff from DECD that wrote the regulations, that many communities are struggling with this too because of the concern that the denser development may result in the drinking water supplies for these types of development being contaminated by wastewater. That said, I think you're right. I think most towns will not know enough to question the state's definition of potability. It just so happens that I have expertise in this area. And if everybody, if the consensus is that you want to go back to the state definition, I'll agree to that. It's just that, I think there's a better way.
Okay, yeah.
That's fair to the landowner and will cost them less money.
And I appreciate what you're saying and what you're trying to do, but I'm trying to be practical with it the first time around in this, and I would assume if it needs to be changed later on down the road, it's gonna be, it will happen at a legislative level, and because the public will come forth to their representatives, et cetera, to force a change. First time around putting this law in, let's go with the way it's gonna be presented.
Does anybody here have a copy of the state definition?
I was gonna.
Kicking around, I'm not sure.
Do you need a copy? I have one.
Yeah, please.
I'll give it up with you.
Does anybody else take a copy?
There you go.
What is it? The difference.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you
Yeah,
gotta,
no, it's-
you gotta go to chapter, 82.
So that's what they're still really do. If you go, just go with that,
Yeah,
you're gonna go the right hole with them.
Yeah, right.
And he synthesizes it, in here, simple.
Just to flesh this out one more step. Just make sure you understand, we go to the state, go back to the state definition of potability and testing requirements, water testing requirements. We'll be requiring people, regardless of where they are in Belgrade, that build a accessory dwelling unit, duplex, or a affordable housing development, which none of us are all that concerned about that.
Portable, right? It's right here. Oh, exactly. Page 14. The 24, the page. I'm looking at it here.
Yeah, 24.
So it's maybe. Wait. 2025, okay, sorry. We're looking at the same thing. For,
That's the one that
we're looking at the same thing.
we kind of,
So this is the same wording?
it's a little bit more, this is a little bit more, but it's, total maintenance, safe for drinking.
That's environmental.
This is, we added 300 feet and
Human services, not environmental, okay.
chapter 82, yeah, same thing. So if you are a homeowner and you read that,
Yeah.
do you know what to do?
If I don't, I'll go get a lawyer. No problem.
So what I was saying was that if we go back to the state definition of potability and the testing that would be required to implement
The
that,
one that you're on the same.
one of the
I
impacts,
just want to make sure that we're looking.
will be that, we will, any well associated with any of the kind of developments that would fall under this, of the three types that we're discussing here, the affordable housing projects, duplexes, and, accessory dwelling units, would have to test regardless of where they're in Belgrade for PFAS. That test is $375 versus $127. Yeah, the way we have it crafted right now, we have that limited to anybody proposing one of those three types of development in close proximity, either to the town closed landfill or to the large septic, commercial septic spreading site on the Penny Road. So, that's another consideration, but it doesn't really, address Pete's concern.
Where,
Rich.
So we're,
after the discussion and stuff, where I stand, I would think, I would go with our revised definition, or modified definition, but also modify the, fixing requirements by providing a provision that potable water is accessible to the people. And that, when I say accessible, an alternative method of providing water. You test it, find out it's okay, it's not okay, you provide water, whether that's Poland Spring or whatever.
And that's enforceable?
Pardon me?
That's enforceable?
is that enforceable? Are we gonna know?
No, but it may not be, but how do you enforce the other thing? How are you gonna know whether somebody's put in a system and maintained it?
Well, and taking it one more step, and properly maintain it. I mean, one of the things that, we learned at DEP was a lot of people coming across private treatment systems in people's in their basements. That it was installed, as far as they're concerned, it's just, they maintain it as well as they maintain their car, they never think about it again. And so you test the well or test the water at the tap and it's totally unsuitable to drink,
Well, that's the thing, 'cause a lot of people can't afford it, and they can buy case of water a week for $3.49 to drink. Cause that's what I do, I don't even go up my well test.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I think we could put some language in there that would help. It doesn't really address Pete's concern, but
You can add some language into there that makes it, so someone doesn't have to put.
Don't have to
$20,000
treat it, don't have to treat it, they have.
Yeah, I put
They have a choice.
$20,000 friggin' water system in and then not maintain it. It just doesn't make sense to me, because we have nothing about maintenance. So why make them do it? You can make them aware of it, make them aware of what their water is. And they can make a choice.
yeah, the only reason I put that in there, or suggested we put that in there, was because the town has to make a finding that the drinking water these people in that development are gonna be consuming is potable. So if they test it and find that it's not, the raw water is not potable, then they need to either treat it or provide an alternate source. And, and so, you know, maybe this, tell me.
We should be, the vocal for, do, 4A testing and do the testing first. And then numbers, 4A is testing, then 4B will be, provision for potable water.
So we could change the end of that, or 4B, as you suggested, Sarah. In the instance where laboratory test results fail to demonstrate the potability of a proposed drinking water supply well, the applicant shall submit to the CEO a plan to provide adequate water treatment or an alternative water source. That would be the new language, to meet potability standards. Well, yeah, actually, we could eliminate the last part of that, or to find a new water supply. I mean, that's something, and it doesn't address your concerns, Greg, but a lot of people will drill another well, which is kind of a crapshoot, really.
It doesn't, you know.
I mean, I usually would recommend treatment, but
So what you just said would work for me, an alternative.
because that, again, you know, I mean, I've been trying to put myself in Hans's shoes of, because all this is administered by him. What is he gonna tell people they need to do, and what are they gonna submit to him to demonstrate that they've done it? And
And then how's he gonna follow up on that?
right, and the follow-up is limited, you know, because there's no way that Hans can check up on, you know, is the treatment system 12 months later being maintained?
Right.
It just, you know, they're on their own, you know.
What's to stop somebody? They test their water, it comes back bad, and they come someplace like here that has a filter. Take a sample, send it off.
Well, I mean, fraud's always gonna happen,
Exactly. So,
yeah. I mean, you can't guard, you know, you can't guard up against people doing stuff, crazy stuff like that. I mean, most people are gonna be concerned enough that they wanna have clean drinking water.
That's what I'm saying, yes. So they can make the decision on their own whether they want to put a filtration system in.
That's right. They will have potable water on the
So
coast.
they can put an alternate plan and alternative source of potable water. Then that gives them a choice to decide on what they want to do.
And, you know, it could be buying through Crystal Springs or whatever, a water, you know, for consumption. I mean, they could use the dirty water for flushing their toilet and
Shower.
Shower.
so,
So you want to add something like that into what you have there.
So,
I would also suggest eliminating iron from that list so that we're not requiring people to treat for iron as a matter of course, because that's not really a health issue.
In the end, it's probably not gonna make much difference because but I agree taking it out.
Yeah,
But if you take your thing down to health engineering to do the $127 test, you're not gonna tell them, I don't want iron.
No, you're not.
I'm gonna only pay you $120.
yeah, no, you're gonna get iron results, but at least then, if you have high iron, and we have high iron in our well. And all it is a matter of you gotta clean the toilet more often.
Yeah, I totally agree with taking it out. Otherwise, yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
So just add alternative plan for potable water.
alternative water source.
For some people, it might be that they'll share somebody else's well that's already clean. That's not always the possibility, but I've seen it done.
So what about these springs around town? Why have they closed down? What were they testing for that was so bad?
Like the one over in the West Road.
Take that one for example.
Yeah, it wasn't that they tested bad, I don't even know what they tested. It was that wasn't that one in particular, I remember this because it came up at town meeting, was, in, the town right away, so the town was responsible for it. And, when I think Congress changed the Safe Drinking Water Act, it captured those as a public drinking water supply,
So,
and the town didn't want to pay for the testing.
so you have that and now over in Kimball Pond Road. So that's probably some of the cleanest water we have, is what I'm saying, getting to. Over on the Kimball Pond Road in Vienna. They still have.
Oh, yeah, no, they do, that's right.
Yeah, and I go over there and I know there's some spots in Smithfield that, they even have it covered. And people still, I saw them just recently dipping water out of there, and I remember it as a kid. And I see they're still using that one in Smithfield on Route 8, which is probably half a mile past the Belgrade line. So I was just, it doesn't pertain to anything. I was just curious why.
Yeah.
Why we shut that down.
Probably more likely somebody get hit by a car on the West Road one than getting, harm from drinking it.
Well, a lot of summer people use that
Yeah.
well, they use that spring on West Road, they used to be lined up there.
Yeah.
So. One of these standards right here. Mentioned in D, is that federal EPA or state?
Which ones?
Pass it over to.
Yeah.
He probably voted.
E,
We're dwelling in connected to a well, group of that, potable water, including standards outlined in. Okay, one of those standards.
oh, that's the, oh, wait a minute.
I just wanna make sure we're following this rule. And then-
Yeah, no, I understand.
Get out from the state level.
What page?
It's in the rules, under water, wastewater.
Page 12. D.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I find it kind of bizarre that the definition of potable just says in test for 6 different. And I read that and it's like, oh, there's 20 of them out there. I'm gonna test for 6 of them.
No, that's the defense.
I know, but I can see where somebody reading this definition has no idea what they're needing to test for.
Sure, could you do a Google search on? And then putting this in. Thing is, I don't. Rich, CMR, what,
What's that?
CMR, what's that stand for? You know, like MRSA stands for, Maine Revised Statutes.
You said DMR?
CMR,
CMR?
is that,
chapter with name regulations? Yes. I don't know.
So, once that in this.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Chapter of many rules.
The code of main rules, code of.
That's it. You're right. So it's a state regulation. Thanks,
Yeah.
Nick.
Long uses.
Yeah, that's it. I'm wondering if it had, yeah. It has to do with, it's a reference to the regulations that apply to unorganized townships.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's the Land Use Regulation Commission. So that doesn't apply to us.
You want to mean that?
So
or-
it applies, it says that if an accessory dwelling unit is connected to a well, proof of access, potable water, including standards. Oh,
At least that's how I read it. It's that it doesn't apply universally, it just applies to them. There must be some kind of drinking water testing requirements in there. So that the answer to Hans's question is that's a reference to the Maine Land Use Regulation Commission's regulations for unorganized townships, developments and that. So I don't think that applies to Belgrade. Unless we become unorganized, and I didn't know it. I guess some people would argue we've always been unorganized, but
Are we kind of at right now, kind of keep the definition that's been proposed, but add the provision that, you can provide water if it's bad or whatever, instead of fixing anything that.
So I think, yeah, are we wrapped up with that concept where we're gonna have testing? And then we're gonna have, correction to the testing in response to the, but the, landowner has alternatives. Can either
Yes, because
do treatment or
that makes them aware
aware,
of what's there. And they can present a plan for alternative, should be buying water,
yeah,
or even drilling a well is cheaper than
yeah,
a water system.
yeah. Would be, that's a crapshoot.
Yeah, hope and hope is what we call wells. It doesn't matter where it is. You could have a good well right here, and you could drill one over here. Not very far away, and it could be good.
We drilled a well in Friendship, 10 feet away from a well that had, dissolved gasoline in it. And found 10 feet of gasoline product floating on top of the groundwater table. 10 feet away. 10 feet of gasoline on top of the groundwater table.
already in there.
Groundwater, the fractures in the bedrock. You just don't know where they're going.
But gasoline's refined, so it had to come from a source.
Oh, it came from leaking underground. Storage tank at the convenience store down the block.
Underground refinery.
all right. So, that was the only item that we had outstanding, or we have other items outstanding. Sounds like.
Yeah, and the only thing I had, and maybe others did too, I found a few typos and one error. Where she, made an
I
error
know.
cutting and copying and pasting.
Okay, I cannot access the copies that, the link that she sent us, that we can look at the latest version. Were you able to do it? I don't know.
I was.
For you, that one.
I got a print out, but
Yeah,
if I'm gonna take on my own to,
oh,
finish it.
okay, so what she originally sent us, I could not open. I emailed her
Okay,
and told her I couldn't open it.
she give you a password.
I never even got that far. I couldn't even open, I never got that
You
far.
get into this,
My computer couldn't open it at all. It didn't even get
I
to the
got the
password,
one
so
where maybe
she sent me a
password.
Word version
okay,
rather than a cloud version.
good. So if you can forward that to me when you get home, that'd be great. So then from
I can
there,
forward it to everybody if you,
oh, very nice, that'd be very nice,
that would be helpful.
yeah.
I had this thing where I had to get into the cog password.
Yeah, it's just, you have to go to some to the,
Oh,
KB Valley, governor, council of government. So you have to sign into there, so
Yeah.
that's where I stopped. I'll be happy to, check out all the typos and whatnot, but that, I think, what we just discussed was a major item of, reconciliation. So, that said, do we want to go over again a absolute free, ordinances from typos and so on, or based on what we have here, which is the meat of the bones here. Vote on approving the changes done to the ordinance as they are.
What was a mistake that you thought?
The only things we have typos and,
I don't
correction
care
of,
about the typos, but you said there was a mistake. or something.
Yeah, and I think we should discuss that to make
Mm.
sure that everybody agrees.
okay,
And it's actually in the family dwelling ordinance. And if you have page numbers, it's on page 6. If you don't have page numbers, let's see.
That page number.
Yeah, those have page numbers. The versions that Hans provided us have page numbers. It's on page 6. And again, it's in the definition of, and it's kind of like what we just discussed in the definition of potable. She had it still the reference to U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's drinking water standards and health advisories. And, I'm suggesting that we strike that out and make it the same as in the minimum lot size ordinance. And substitute Maine Department of Health and Human Services maximum exposure guidelines.
so you basically wanna have what is in page 24 of the minimum size lot to grab it and copy it here.
It doesn't require that, it just requires that one simple change. But yes, it would be the same though.
Yeah,
So why?
I thought she did this last time. I thought she said she was.
Well, yeah, I think, in the haste of, making all the changes that we agreed to at the last meeting, I think she just, occasionally made an error. I don't fault her. I wouldn't be able to,
Yeah.
I would make a hell of a lot more errors if it was left in my devices.
So what I will do, a copy what is in page 24 of the minimum size lot, grab it and put it right here.
The other thing that, I found in the multifamily dwelling unit, you may recall, we amended, the minimum lot size ordinance so that when we were talking about the setback between a leach field or a wastewater system and a well, that we made it very specific that it was from the outermost edge of the disposal system's disposal field. That language never got put into the multifamily dwelling unit, and I think it needs to be, otherwise it's kind of vague, and, you know,
Well, it's
we
that-
run into the issue of, we're on page 9, under 8. So basically to make the two ordinances consistent.
The one that was that one?
Number 8 in section 5, multi-family dwelling unit. What I can do, if people would like me to, is if there's no depending on what we decide on these here, I can make these changes, save it, and then circulate it to everybody.
Sure.
And that way, and then Hans, that'll be the new master copy, I guess, that ultimately will go to the select board.
I would say it doesn't make any sense to have two different standards and two ordinances that deal with the same
Keep it
general.
consistent.
And another, correction is on that same page under 11. Well, correction, rewording, it reads currently add vegetative screening standards from public roads and abutting, residences, similar to those in Belgrade Commercial Development Review Ordinance. And what she did was she just cut and pasted in a comment that I had made. And I think it needs to be reworded so that it reads like, what it's supposed to be, which is one of the criteria. And so I was suggesting that we just eliminate add vegetative capitalized screening, and so that it reads, screening standards for public roads and abutting residences. And then provide the reference, the correct reference, in the, commercial development review ordinance, and that way people know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
And then, lastly, in the corrections in this thing, is, given the change that, to number 8, we can delete numbers 15 and 16 on the next page, page 10. I think what she did was, while we're meeting, she just copied and pasted those in. And didn't realize, like, for example, it refers to an accessory dwelling unit. Well, we're talking about multifamily dwelling units in this ordinance, not an accessory dwelling unit. So that's just an obvious.
As I remember, I thought she deleted 15 and 16, which it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's
I thought.
conversing with us, making these changes,
Yeah,
chewing gum, all at the same time. Like I said,
so, I will entertain a motion on the floor to, accept the ordinances as they have been changed.
one other question, sir,
Oh, go ahead.
before we go there, if you don't mind.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay, but,
We discussed at the last meeting, asking the Board of Appeals to review the appeals section in these two ordinances.
the memory. That was on my bucket list to do. It was a matter of, copy and paste and send it to them.
Well,
I can do that.
I wonder if there's another way to do this. I mean, this is gonna go to the town attorney. I mean, I had made that suggestion just partly as a courtesy and to ensure there wasn't, I mean, that's their area of expertise, not ours. Some changes that they might wanna see.
I can do that and send it tomorrow.
Well, let me ask you this question. So if we vote on to send this to the
So.
select board. How awkward would it be if it went to the select board and the Board of Appeals had, has changes they'd like to see?
So the select board will not meet till next Tuesday, so if I do, what's the,
But she
No.
needs it Friday to put on the agenda.
I see.
Yeah, right, so not much time. No time. But realistically, I mean, we can't just give them a couple days.
Who is,
They don't even meet on a regular basis.
so we don't know when they meet, when is the next meeting?
Yeah, they meet when they need to meet, and that's only when they meet.
So does, what's in here? Not familiar with the appeal, real familiar with the appeals process, but what's in here, does that follow pretty much the rest of our ordinances as far as the appeals process?
I don't know. Well, no, they're kind of unique. Let's see,
That was in the minimum size law, was it?
yeah,
It
I
was
mean, the
in-
appeal section in the multifamily dwelling thing, it's all one sentence. It just says, within 30 days, you can appeal a decision to the planning board, to Superior Court. It's sort of a boiled down version of what is in the subdivision ordinance, I guess.
What page is that one?
That's on page 13. And, can't remember, there's a little more. I think there's a little bit more in the, there's,
It's on page 18, I think, is what's
in the minimum lot size, there's more language and, spells out the powers and duties of the Board of Appeals, and how they're gonna handle variance appeals and that kind of thing. I just remember from when we, well, I just don't know anything about appeals and whether anything's changed, particularly in the minimum lot size.
So that is, everything that is in there, basically. Page 17 to page 18. I was gonna just grab that, copy and send it to them. Who's the chair of the Board of Appeals?
Like,
You know,
yeah.
So let's, I follow your logic and maybe you hold it to kick this can to the select board. To have voice of my kingdom, but, Mike lives on the same road.
When's so they meet next Tuesday, obviously we can't get it to them before then. So when's their next meeting after that?
That's gonna be,
Should we?
it will be 2 weeks after that, and that's gonna put us in peril. Is that we should be in position to send this to the lawyer, coming soon. Think about this, I don't know that.
So, and not that there's any mistake or anything, but for multifamily dwelling ordinance, multifamily unit. They go from the planning board right to Superior Court. Skipping the appeals.
I don't know, that's what it says, I think.
I thought you had to go through appeals on pretty much everything before you go to, Superior
there
Court.
are some things where you just send them directly. to the
Yeah,
court.
subdivisions are like that, and I think that's because of state law.
I don't know anything about it, so.
And nor do I, but.
One thing about, I thought of in terms of, the Board of Appeals and whether they review this and give comment back. I remember somebody saying, last week that the selectmen need to be aware of, we're not trying to fix the ordinance other than this state requirement that we're doing. We're not trying to fix the ordinance. So if we decided to not bother sending it to the Board of Appeals, we're following that line. We're not fixing
Yeah,
existing deficiencies, we're getting it up to speed. So I'm saying if we're short of time and we want to skip that to make sure we meet deadlines.
Look, and Grenier said that a couple times. You're right. That, I mean, part of it was based on the limitations of her grant and funding and what she could spend her time
Yeah.
on. That she couldn't, help us with any appeals.
Yeah.
Language, I mean, if, where I was going earlier was if the earliest this is gonna get to the select board is, 2 weeks from this coming Tuesday, then we could give them
No, it's actually next Tuesday.
well, yeah, there's no way we can reasonably ask them to review it before then.
I see.
That would be.
Yeah.
Not good, but give them a deadline, so that it would be in advance of the deadline for the agenda. And, that way we at least give them a week. To get back to us with any comments they had,
So what I'm saying is that,
but, Rich is right, I mean, and, we need to make it clear to the Board of Selectmen, this isn't a total rewrite of these ordinances, this is just adequate to comply with the new state law and, and we could just keep the appeal sections the way they are. I mean, the attorney is gonna review this. And he represents, I mean, when the appeals board meets on an appeal, he sits at their table and advises them through the whole thing. So he's very familiar with not only their process, but what their authority is. We could rely on that instead.
If we need to have it in now to make everything, because then I'm fine with relying on the attorney. And we could still ask the appeals if they will review it, and if they come up with something that the attorney doesn't, we can suggest it to the attorney while he's looking at it,
Right.
and we're still on that schedule.
Yeah, we could do that. As long as I think we just need to be, straightforward with, be right up front with the select board in case when it goes before them, if there's anything outstanding like that.
okay, so what I'm hearing is then, with the condition that we make this like work aware that the Board of Appeals have no way into this, even when basically we have not touched anything of the provisions for them in these two ordinances for them related to this new state law requirement. That the Board of Appeals will not weigh into these two ordinances as they coming to them change from us. And that we kind of, we are okay with what we have right now, with the exception of doing the corrections that Mr. Seal just mentioned today, and correcting some typos. We should be in good shape tonight to vote on this and say we're okay with it. So I will entertain a motion to do so.
Oh, Ron's got his hand on, I thought.
No, I'm just looking at my hand.
Okay.
Be careful, don't do that in an auction.
Well, maybe you're making a motion. I would make a motion, make a motion that, we, approve these ordinances changes with the changes that we went over and agreed to tonight.
Okay, second,
I'll second
all right, So discussions on this, both ordinances. Any other, concerns? So we had two conditions, the fact that we're gonna make the select board aware that these are not going to the Board of Appeals. And then, that we have those some changes that we did tonight, and we have to do overnight to send the final copy to the select board so they can look at it next Tuesday. So, we're voting, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Sergeant,
No,
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
And Mr. Rangel, we vote yes, so it's, 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
Oh, wait a minute, did you vote?
Yep,
No, I can't vote.
you can vote then, so then it's 4 in favor, 1 opposed.
So in all likelihood, what'll happen is when we go before the board, they're gonna send us back to the table, negotiating tables. Because we don't have consensus.
Okay,
I mean, that's
So-
what's happened in the past.
so I will
can't-
reiterate this.
Even if it's 4-1, you think they're gonna?
Well, that's what happened with, the solar ordinance.
Okay,
They very much wanted us to have a consensus. and-
so can I ask Mr. Sergeant why you're not in agreement?
what are the conditions again?
The conditions are,
Regarding,
That-
why aren't we just, why can't we strike? George's, one Paul George's, and just go with the, state.
so you still in disagreement with the testing and how we proceed with the testing?
Yeah, I think it should be, just follow the same rule.
We're following the rules. I said that the state rules are broader
Right,
And
we'll
Miss-
go with the broader definition.
and Mr. Seal, condensed them, to make it easier for the person that is gonna go through the testing. And then Alexander was concerned about, well, if the testing is positive, then the applicant is handcuffed with the concept that they have to implement a treatment system that is very expensive. So not to handcuff people with that, we agreed that the applicant has options. They can either, dug a new well or get bottled water or put it in expensive system, and Mr. Alexander was agreeable with that. So I thought we resolved all those disagreements in that.
Okay, how is that stated? How, you didn't state it the way you said it, how are we gonna put it in writing?
So in writing, we added to that portion, we added that, it's page 14. I'll read it for you.
I think it's pretty much provide an alternative for.
Yeah, I wanna hear, how we're gonna word it in page 14.
This one.
I have it right here. If you.
Yeah, right.
So in page 14, to that paragraph, and, right after, it says, "For," if you go,
For administration, on page 14.
Today- we go to number 4, we go to demonstrate the drinking water supply well.
Wait, I'm looking at the minimum lot size ordinance on page 14. We're at page
Actually, page 15,
15,
yeah.
okay. And, okay, now we're down to item 4.
Yeah,
All right, so where are we gonna put in this language on?
so item 4, you go almost all the way to the, bottom of the paragraph. And you go to where it says, in the instance where laboratory testing results fail.
Yeah.
To demonstrate the portability of a proposed drinking water, supply well.
Yeah.
The applicant shall submit to the CEO a plan to provide adequate water treatment. And there we're gonna say, or an alternative water source
Okay,
to meet potability, standards,
Or to find a new water supply,
or to find a new water supply,
okay? I want to have that crystal clear,
okay?
all right, because this is all being recorded, right?
That's right,
Okay, fine. All right, then I can change my vote,
all right.
trying to go on.
So then I hear that, on the last, motion that we have, we're gonna have 5 in favor, none opposed. And then this 2 ordinances will go, to the, select board for next meeting. All right,
Good.
that's great, thank you.
So, I'll make the edits and corrections that we discussed tonight. And then I will send them to all of you and Hans. And, it's gonna fall on Hans's shoulder to place it in the, select board.
I will make sure I follow up with, Lorna tomorrow morning, so you have
You
these,
want me to CC her on that?
that'd be nice. You have this, done, when, Mr. Seal?
I can do it tomorrow morning.
Okay, so I will let her know that she has to post that tomorrow, and if the information is coming, I don't see why she cannot add an agenda for next Tuesday.
Yeah, and so you're still going to, send this to the appeals board?
And I will send, yeah,
And that verbiage we just added in the water. Lawyer's gonna be looking at that.
Right.
Yeah.
You may have suggestions of changes to that as
Yeah,
well.
as well as with almost anything else we get.
after it goes to the, select board, it will go, all of it is gonna go to the lawyer.
Right. So we may have to
Yeah,
have a discussion again.
right. Because it was so much fun the first time.
So next item in the agenda is to approve the minutes of, February 1st and February 8th.
I don't have the minutes, but I was.
I don't know either.
I would be voting.
And they weren't part of the
Yeah.
packet on the, sent to us at home.
Yeah, no, they weren't in the package.
So we're gonna skip that item, so CEO, I don't know where he went.
He went in his office.
We turned for.
Bored him to death.
Yeah,
We saw the bus leave.
as soon as he heard Peter say no, he got up and walked.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he went to recycle all the extra stuff.
So we'll put the minutes on next. We'll approve the minutes.
Yeah, we'll do it in the next meeting, yeah. So CEO update,
They twisted my agreement.
on where we got none, so, we have any other discussion? I hear none, so we entertain a motion to adjourn,
Make a motion to adjourn.
second,
I'll second it.
okay, Mr. Sergeant,
Yes.
Mr. Sakara,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yep.
Mr. Alexander, and Mr. Langell, 5 in favor, no opposed, and we are closed.
We're gonna approve the minutes next meeting because we didn't get.